Welcome, dear students. Today we'll discuss lesson number 2. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. From the book Hornbill. This lesson and the story is about a family which undertakes a 3-year long sea voyage, and they face a lot of problems, even death on their way. But they don't lose hope. And it is all about the spirit of optimism, positivity, and as the title says, we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. Speaks about the bond, the strength that a family holds within. There are these 4 characters here: wife Mary, son Jonathan, daughter Suzanne, and the 37 years old businessman who is the narrator, who decide and set themselves to sail from Plymouth, England, in order to duplicate the round the world voyage made 200 years ago by Captain James Cook, who was a British explorer, navigator, and cartographer who ultimately rose to the rank of captain in the Royal Navy. In July 1976, the narrator, along with his family, started their sea voyage from Plymouth, England, and the narrator and his wife had spent 16 years preparing for the round the world voyage, and they named their boat as Wave Walker. This Wave Walker was 23-meter long and 30 ton in weight. It was a beautiful wooden hull. Beauty, as they name in the lesson, was professionally built, and they had tested it in the roughest weather they could find. And finally, they begin their voyage in July 1976. The first leg of their planned 3-year journey passed pleasantly. They took 2 crewmen, the American Larry Vigil and the Swiss Herb Segler, before heading east from Cape Town towards one of the world's roughest seas, the southern Indian Ocean. But the problem arises. The disaster which was about to come and hit them began on the second day out of Cape Town, when they encountered strong winds and high waves. The size of the waves were so alarming that despite the atrocious weather, although they managed to celebrate Christmas Day wonderfully, New Year's Day saw no improvement in the weather, but they did not know that the waves were rising 15-meter long, reaching their mast, and that it was going to get worse. On 2nd January, the waves were gigantic. They were sailing with a small storm jib, but still they were going very fast. The screaming of the wind and the spray was almost painful to the ears, and to minimize the damage, they dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. They prepared for the worst and went through the life raft drill. But the disaster strikes at about 6 p.m. There was an ominous silence. The wind dropped and the sky grew immediately dark. The narrator thought that he saw a cloud coming towards them. With horror, he realized that it was a wave like no other he had ever seen in his life. The wave hit the boat and a tremendous explosion shook the deck. The captain's head smashed into the wheel of the boat, and suddenly he found himself below the waves. He thought that he was going to die, but then his head popped out of the water. He saw that the boat had almost capsized. Suddenly, a wave hurled her upright, and the captain got tossed onto the boat. His left ribs were cracked, his mouth was filled with blood, and teeth were broken. But he managed to find the wheel. Now, before I continue, I would want you all to understand and think of the situation that the boat had an explosion, the deck is shook, and the captain's head is smashed. His teeth are broken, yet he does not give up. So the first moral, if I say, begins from here itself. That the captain refuses to give up, manages to find the field, and continue with the same spirit, even being hurt that badly. In order to give the frantic rescue, they started attempting to some of their measures. And the narrator knew that the ship had water below, but he dared not abandon the wheel to investigate. And suddenly, Mary came and he handed the wheel to her. While the other two crewmen were pumping the water out, the ship was wrecked, but they managed to reach the children. Now, this journey has got two little ones, 6-year-old son Jonathan and 7 years old daughter Suzanne. And please, children, I would want you all to think of these young children ones, those who are there accompanying their parents in order to fulfill one dream of theirs. And these two children throughout the journey stay strong, refuse to give up, and stay along with the same spirit as of their parents throughout the journey. As the ship was wrecked and there was an explosion, Sue had a big bump on her head. He got a canvas hammer and squeezed to waterproof the hatch covers. The father is trying hard to keep his children safe. And every arrangement that they were prepared with, all of their equipments were failing one by one. And there occurs an electric short circuit as well, and the water rose threateningly. But the narrator managed to find another electric pump to drain out the water, and the night was endless, bitterly cold, routine of pumping, steering, and working the radio. All necessary steps, measures, repairs, everything were taken into consideration in order to save the boat from sinking. But the night seemed to be an endless one for them. And Sue's head had swollen alarmingly. She also had a deep cut on her arm. But she didn't tell the narrator more of her injuries, as this young girl did not want him to worry about this. She could see the spirit of father, and she did not want to disturb him anymore with anything else, because he had been busy throughout the night in order to save them all. And then there were certain other problems. As I said, the electric pump short circuit was there, the water level rose threateningly, this little girl was injured badly. The captain knew that the boat wouldn't hold together long enough. He checked his charts and calculated that there was only one hope for them. If they could reach Isle Amsterdam, a French scientist base, one of the two pinpricks in the vast ocean. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and they had their first meal in almost 2 days. The weather started deteriorating, and by the dawn on 5th of January, their situation was desperate bad. Now everything is deteriorating. Their health, the ship, weather, but one thing they were able to sustain themselves with was their hope and courage to not give up on anything. No matter what comes, they had decided to reach to at least till Isle Amsterdam safely. Then this son, Jonathan, who is only 6 years old, says something extraordinarily courageous and exemplary. The narrator went to comfort the children. He tried to assure them that they were going to make it. But John said that they were not afraid to die because they were all together in this. Please try to understand the strength, the mental strength at least, if not physical, of this young boy and that young girl Sue, who are the embodiment of courage and bravery here. This young boy has come up to the father and telling him that, Father, we do not afraid to die because we all are here together in it. The bond, the special bond of a united family is shown here. This gave the narrator hope and a reason to fight. He continued with even more courage and even more strength because he realized that not just his wife and the other two crewmen, but his young children were also there together, and none of them wanted to give up. Because the narrator had this hope and continued with the journey, on 6th of January, the weather slightly improved. He again tried to calculate their position. While he was at work, Sue came and gave him a card. She had drawn caricatures of Mary and the narrator. The card said that she loved them both and hoped for the best. And the narrator was filled with even more optimism. And they were able to make it. So this beautiful thing comes out while all the hurdles are there, while everything is odd, all they're going through the obstacles like anything, the big one, the hurdles. The sailing had become a Herculean task for them. And they had to save their lives because nothing is larger than life, and to sustain, they had to save the boat. But what exactly is giving them that courage is their togetherness and the strength from these young children. Because everything is going on an odd angle, nothing is actually working out positive for them. but still they continued and managed to reach to the island. A, because they were courageous enough. B, because of the bond of togetherness. And C, because they were able to fight the dire stress and overcome all the odds. While the captain also made several calculations and made some adjustments and came to Larry, and he asked to steer a course of 185 degree, and if they were lucky, he said, they would see the island at about 5 p.m. There is also an element of luck here, because when everything was going against their wish, something was there that kept them alive. And this luck has been talked about by this captain, who believes that if they find themselves to be lucky enough, they'll be able to see the island at around 5 p.m. It was almost about 6. It was about to be 6 when he woke up. He had slept out of tiredness, out of being really lethargic and stressful. So he thought that they must have missed the island. But John and Sue came to him and gave him a hug, because he was the best daddy in the world. But the narrator was confused then. Actually, they had found the island. He rushed back and saw the most beautiful island in the world. And when his feet touched land the next day, he thought of the cheerfulness and the optimism of all the people on the boat, which made them pass through the distress and through the obstacle so positively and so courageously. The title is actually taken from the words of Jonathan, who says that we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. And as I have told you, that this young fellow was equally courageous and decided not to give up on anything, no matter what comes in. They all continued with the same spirit and courage and bravery and optimism, because they were all together in this. So it was not going to harm just one. If something had gone wrong, would have gone wrong for every one of them. So we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. It's the story of rare courage and perseverance that is shown by the narrator, his crewmen, his wife and children. Every one of them confronted the disaster with patience, courage and determination. Even the children showed enough courage. They did not give up hope even till the last moment. The narrator made all possible attempts to save their lives. Like his father, John reacted very bravely that they were not afraid to die, but it would be better if they died together. Hence, the title is very apt and logically justified. It brings out the bravery, grit and courage of the captain's family and love that each one of them had for each other. There are certain things which are quite clear with this story, that this is human nature. This is one of our traits, to accept challenges, that you don't easily give up. And it is our natural instinct to survive, at least to greed for a survival. Then the story is definitely an example of human bravery, courage, determination and the unity that is exhibited even by the young children of the family. Then there is also an element of luck, as I told you. that irrespective of all the odds and obstacles, they were able to manage well and they were able to reach to the island safely. And that they had that immense and intact faith, not despairing hope at any point of time, and of course the presence of mind to analyze the situation and deal with it. And the capability of the captain who is leading, was successful to handle even the strong hurdles and let them all be safe and sound. So the important message also, if we discuss, is that from such hazardous experiences, even when you are in a condition to face death, when death is approaching you, is not to lose hope under any circumstance. At times, life presents very dire situation, but if one is optimistic about finding a solution and overcomes the odds, one will always be successful and achieve the goal they have set for themselves. Amsterdam was the only hope of survival for the voyagers. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation, but to the narrator, it was the most beautiful island in the world. Which brings out the metaphor. Why? Because this island was the survival for their life, of their condition, their existence. And when they were successful in saving the family and crewmen by reaching there, they had won the fight for survival. If they had not reached the island, then they surely would have sunk. And that is why the narrator calls this island the most beautiful island in the world. Children also play a very important role in this, the children of the family, because they were the ones who led the captain, the narrator, to continue to not give up and fight with the same courage. And as the title says, we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. So immense love of the family, the intact bond, the intact faith in each other. Children were sure that the father would be able to save them. Wife was sure that they'll make it out. Captain was sure because somewhere they had this important quality of not giving up at any point in time. So this was, we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. Beautiful lesson, beautiful story with beautiful messages and themes. Thank you, children.